All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Sorry, let me get this off the screen. And yeah, hi everybody, thanks for joining today. And we've got a great agenda. I think I skipped ahead one slide. Give me one sec. So for our agenda, so we just did our intro. I'm going to start with a very brief high-level overview of our integration between UiPath and OutSystems, and I'm going to hand it over to Preet after that for a more hands-on, real-world example section where he's going to talk through, sort of a little more detail on really what you can do with UiPath and OutSystems with practical examples. And then Walt from OutSystems is going to provide an overview of OutSystems, at a high level again. And then we're going to jump into a hands-on walkthrough to configure all the prerequisites within Orchestrator, your automation and all of that on the UiPath side. And then Walt's going to walk through the connector in OutSystems. So I wanted to provide a little bit of intro, but really excited to get into those subsequent sections with both the examples and the live demos. So without spending too much time on these intro slides, at a very high level, we assume most of the audience here is familiar with OutSystems, but for those who aren't, OutSystems is a fantastic platform to set up persistent user interface and applications for both internal and external employees. So that could be outside of your organization, for external customers, via the browser, via the phone. It could also be internal employees in sort of a, more internal employee focused, like, service desk type situation or something else from a line of business perspective. But, I see OutSystems really as this fantastic way to set up these persistent applications across different departments and lines of business, mobile and browser. And then UiPath is a great way to extend a lot of that execution behind the user interface. So we think of this idea of sort of an automation layer, where if we consolidate what users are doing onto, a single pane of glass like OutSystems, anything that has to be executed in the background, there are lots of methods within OutSystems, to make API calls and do other things. But if you add UiPath, you're really extending that reach and you're really adding all those different methods that UiPath can do. So, we're starting to incorporate UI automation and we can touch legacy applications. We can even start getting into AI and documents. So a lot of what we see as the extension of that is, or, the expansion of that is sort of incorporating AI models and document understanding and intelligent document processing. So as an OutSystems user, my input can then feed, something like a sentiment analysis model or named entity recognition or, different machine learning models to help classify and categorize. And then let's say I upload a document or take a picture as part of my OutSystems app. Document understanding can then be used to process that, or object detection, things like that. So we see a lot of great opportunities to use the two tools together to naturally expand what a user does without any disruption to the user. So, behind OutSystems, behind that user interface layer, it doesn't matter if you're using UiPath, if you're making an API call, if you're using another integration, the user only sees that interface. And we'll get into that in a bit with some of the practical examples we have and the live demo, but I did want to say we're only going to touch on this at a high level, but there's also a really cool opportunity to, take your end-to-end UiPath and OutSystems, software development and apply automation testing via a tool like UiPath Test Suite. So if you think about all those different user interfaces and user actions that you're setting up as part of your OutSystems application, those are all now testable and you can perform end-to-end testing across both the application and RPA. So going into just a little bit more detail, we did announce a strategic alliance with OutSystems a few weeks ago in Forward. We're all really excited about the synergy between the two companies and just what we can do from a technical perspective. And from an integration perspective, I'm mostly focused today, or we're mostly going to focus today on the OutSystems connector. So that's going to be the pattern of beginning in OutSystems and triggering Orchestrator to then trigger executions via unattended robots. I'll get into that in a little more detail in just a second. But we did want to call out that UiPath Integration Service does have connector builders. So there's a couple of different ways that we can also interact with exposed API endpoints within OutSystems to then use Studio to reach into OutSystems applications and get data that way as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to build out that bi-directional set of patterns. For now, we're really going to focus on that orchestrator connector within OutSystems primarily. So I'll come right back to the slide, but really what that looks like from a technical level, just sort of clicking, double clicking on what we were just looking at. If you think about a user on either their browser or their mobile app and they're within OutSystems, as a developer, what you're going to do is you're going to set up a condition or a control that's mapped to a workflow. And as soon as that condition is met or the control is selected, whether it's a button or anything else, that can automatically trigger an API call made to Orchestrator, and it can also include input parameters as part of that initial process. So if I take a couple of identifying details, maybe if I take input from the user, if they're describing their problem or something like that, that can all be passed as part of that API call to Orchestrator, and then used by that robot to execute. So the robot can then do all those different things UiPath can do, like setting up a UI automation with a legacy or custom application, maybe filling out a legacy form or a PDF form on behalf of the user. And I think, when we think about OutSystems consolidating a lot of legacy processes and, maybe paper-based processes and things like that, if there's any need to synchronize across both the previous process and the current one, maybe as you're modernizing, this is a great opportunity to have robots do the legacy piece, so the user doesn't have to learn multiple systems or interact with multiple applications or forms. And then on the flip side, we also have our document understanding. We also have AI capabilities that the robot can invoke as part of that process. So we could take handwritten documents, we can take semi-structured or unstructured documents or pictures and things like that and incorporate that into the workflow. And then once everything's done, we can send the results back via a couple of different methods that we'll talk about in just a few minutes back to OutSystems. So if you look at the user experience, the user never left their app, and then everything that happens within UiPath can be returned back, and then any subsequent actions can trigger additional workflows seamlessly without any disruption to the user. So that really, from an unattended perspective, that's the primary pattern and the primary scenario that we're going to look at today. But I also did want to call out, there's a lot of great opportunities to start thinking about attended automation for internal employee-facing scenarios where an OutSystems user may also have an attended robot, and that's where I could use something like robot.js or other methods to actually invoke an attended robot, and then have a lot of local application steps take place based on my triggers from my OutSystems application. And there's also a great opportunity to set up scenarios that are both real-time, but also asynchronous. So if I have a longer running workflow, if I've got something where a user may leave the application in OutSystems and come back, there's great opportunities to perform longer steps like research and consolidating data and things like that via UiPath. And then when the user's at the right point, we can query the status of the job, we can get all the information pulled from the robot, and all that can be seamlessly put together as part of your workflow. So really briefly, just a couple of the benefits that I wanted to highlight. I think the big one from the user experience is sort of that consolidated central single view. So if you think about all the different applications you might click through, there might be documents that you read, there might be a couple of browser-based applications that you scrape data from, there could be data entry within a couple of points. But if I'm consolidating most of that within OutSystems, I can then also consolidate that background execution via UiPath, so I can really focus on that one application that I'm building within OutSystems. And I think there's a fantastic opportunity to incorporate longer running processes via OutSystems. So using that persistent UI an application and having robots execute in the background. And your unattended execution can be predefined to lots of different triggers and conditions within OutSystems. Walt's going to walk through a little bit of that today. And those unattended robots can perform a lot of back-end actions, including ones that the user may not have access to perform. So an external user may ask for something, the robot can help verify, the robot can then, let's say, do something like a password reset or pull information from a database that the user doesn't have access to, and that information can then be distilled and sent back to the user however your workflow needs. And then status updates and details can be synchronized between the two systems. So I've got my input parameters declared within OutSystems. I've got my output parameters declared or arguments declared within UiPath. And both of those can be shared back and forth with something like Orchestrator in between to improve your logging, your governance, and just give you all those different, as a developer, give you all those different methods that UiPath offers seamlessly within your OutSystems development experience. And the last piece, we'll hope to have a lot more information on this over the next few months, but at least to start thinking about it, there's definitely methods like Robot.js for attended execution. I think if you have attended users on OutSystems, it's a great opportunity to invoke those automations automatically just based on browser actions within the OutSystems app. So I think that's all the intro information I had. And Christina, I believe it's time for a quick Menti quiz.
Okay, 1 minute, please.
Yep.
That came out a bit sooner than we expected.
And Christina, I'm still sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, you're still sharing your screen. I will share my
Sorry, I
screen.
wanted to make sure I didn't lose it.
Okay. So I'm going to share mine in a minute. Just first, I want to give the code and the link for everybody to be able to join the quiz. So guys, you go on www.menti.com. And this is the code to enter the quiz room. Yes. And now we will see how many players we get into the quiz room. Okay, we're going for the first two questions, yes?
I think we're just doing the first one for now.
Okay. Okay, we'll wait a bit more. We have 30 and we have 69 in the session, so we want to get at least like 60% of the people in the quiz room.
Yep. I'm glad somebody picked the robot avatar.
It's a random pick.
Oh, okay.
They don't get a preference, but some are lucky, some are bees, some are watermelons. So it's likes and dislikes. Okay, so we're up to 38. Let's see if any more people want to join. Guys, it's very easy to join from mobile, so that's an advice if you want, like easier to join from mobile. Okay, so we're going to start now. What are some things you can do with the OutSystems UiPath connector? There is no UiPath connector for OutSystems. Only read data from UiPath Orchestrator or start the UiPath automation and pass parameters. Okay. Yes.
Good job, guys.
Most of the people got it right. Let's also see the leader board after the first question.
That's close.
Yes, so Atul is leading, closely followed by Agin and Sylvain. Okay, we'll meet for the next question, then a bit later, also in the quiz room, so you guys can stay logged in, or I will give you time to log in again next time. Thank you, Mo.
All right, great. So let me pull the slides back up, and I'm going to hand it off to Preet, who's going to provide some great examples of some practical use cases. Give me 1 sec. And can everyone see the screen again?
Yes, thank you, Mo.
Thank you, Preet.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Preet Pal here. So I'm going to take you out of the technology aspect and take you to an enterprise, how enterprise are looking at intelligent automation. especially in the hyperautomation area, and what kind of technologies are available, and importantly, how we're going to use both OutSystems and UiPath in the enterprise world. So with that said, I'll start with the hyperautomation toolbox. There are various different key components that becomes part of an hyperautomation as a strategy, right from process mining to low code app dev. Core can really leverage to build majority of your hyperautomation applications. You can use UiPath, OutSystems for the systems of engagement, building applications, and then you can use UiPath right from evaluating the process to begin with through their process discovery and process mining, and then leveraging Automation Hub to prioritize those use cases for an enterprise, bring in OutSystems to start building the applications, and then leverage UiPath to do the backend, automation that is required, for any applications that you're building, right? And then there are further other components that are available, like business rules management systems, iPaaS technologies to directly integrate with various different systems within an enterprise, and AML, technologies to bring in more intelligent decisioning into your application. So this covers the overall hyperautomation toolbox that we are extensively using for various different customers. And I would like to let you know that you guys can also leverage majority of these technologies to build very complex enterprise applications, and then win the business confidence. Moving forward, I'm gonna take you to an innovation aspect. Mo, if you can go forward. So this is a digital experience framework. Every enterprise wants to innovate in a fast pace. They don't want to wait for an enterprise to be fully integration ready. What they want to do is the business is coming up with various different use cases, and then you want to innovate fast on those use cases. You can definitely leverage OutSystems to build those systems of engagement or applications for your business. But at the same time, if you end up into unlocking the information from systems like ERP or mainframe to bring that data upward into the system of engagement, you need to wait, maybe not months, but years for those integrations to be ready. But then you can use UiPath there. You can use UiPath to basically unlock the information from these systems, bring it into the systems of engagement, and leverage OutSystems to deliver that system of engagement for the enterprises and innovate really in a fast pace. And when I'm saying fast pace, I'm not even talking about months. You can build application in weeks. And then there is a concept of app in a day. You can basically use these two technologies to even build applications in a day. So that's how the innovation, you can take the innovation to the next level, within your enterprises. Then moving, and if I drill down one step further to it, this is a reference architecture that we have been extensively using in many different systems that we have built so far. As I said, we are leveraging OutSystems to build the experiences, whether it's a native mobile experience, or it is PWA experience, or a system of engagement for either internal user community or an external user community, whether they are end users or they are suppliers, or vendors. We build those, applications on OutSystems, and then there are various areas where there are you need to execute certain transactions on the back end. And if those transactions have a huge volume, for example, there is person coming in, activating the the process within OutSystems through an application, and there is a backend transactions which are in thousands that need to be executed. You don't want to allocate or assign those transactions to actual users to go complete that. You use UiPath. If there are rule-based transactions, you can basically leverage UiPath to basically address those volume-based transactions, because you have a bots that can run 24/7, addressing and executing all those transactions for you. And then again, integrating with third-party systems. If there are external portals that you need to extract and fetch the information from, you can use UiPath to bring that information into your system of engagement and leverage that data. And there is a huge potential that is being unlocked, leveraging the intelligent document processing framework of UiPath as well. You can integrate, IDP component of UiPath with multiple OCRs, and then extract and validate the information in the documents, and leverage that digital information in your application to be leveraged as data, and then leverage that data to execute certain transactions within your application. So this is just a reference architecture at high level that you can leverage, to build an enterprise-grade application leveraging OutSystem and UiPath integration. Can you please go to the next slide? Awesome. So let me take you to one of the examples. So this is an HR onboarding, application that we have built. The average process completion time to onboard one person, was around 3 weeks in the organization, and this organization deals with a lot of adjusters. So suddenly, if there is some catastrophe happens, and you really need to onboard huge amount of people into an enterprise, contractors to address the situation, and we are talking about thousands of people to be onboarded. And if you need to wait 3 weeks to onboard every one person, you lose a lot of time, and then you lose a lot of money as well, which is on the stake. So while we build the particular application on OutSystems, which is HR onboarding, that there are core 2 pieces that we had leveraged some key technologies to address operational efficiency and productivity. One was, the background check. We leveraged some AI/ML algorithm behind the scene, especially to leverage the legacy HR data and third-party verifications for the evaluation of the people, and then get the approvals on moving forward. And the second portion, which was a very critical portion, and which is a very tedious activity in the HR onboarding as well, which is creating their user credentials, allocating the space to them, systems to them. There are a lot of things that happens, when you onboard a person, right? All those operational activities, you don't want to assign people to perform that. You want to leverage the digital workforce to go and do all of that for you. And after implementing that, leveraging UiPath, we have actually brought down the whole process from 3 weeks to total end-to-end 4 days for every person to get onboarded. So this is the benefit in a real life, applications that you will be building, that you can bring in, leveraging these 2 technologies together and address some problem statements, for the enterprises. So can you go to the next step, please? Awesome. So in the IA space, which is intelligent automation, these are some of the highly differentiated solutions that we are focusing on and building. First one is intelligent document analysis. We are leveraging UiPath heavily, and all the output of that, we are leveraging OutSystems to build certain applications, and leveraging this, the output of IDP into those applications, and I've already mentioned that. But then we are also focusing a lot on, pro-trained persona bots. For example, HR bot, marketing bot, finance bot, sales bots. And once you start building those bots, and you are building an end-to-end, an application that spins off multiple different departments, or a process that touch upon various different departments or line of businesses, these pro-trained bots will become very handy. That will further improve your overall productivity and efficiency of the work that will get assigned to this digital workforce to address it, while your core users will use these applications on the front end, and they will have a full insights on what is being executed by UiPath in the back end. So you bring all those insights up and use those as analytics in your OutSystem applications, and only keep the work that needs to be done by the users manually, and then all the rest of the activities and transaction execution and processing, you do it through UiPath to basically bring efficiency. One of the core aspect of focusing on persona-based bots is that there is a lot of audits that kicks in when you use bots into your process automation. So this really helps the auditors to identify what kind of transactions were executed, by what type of bots. So there are certain named bots, there are certain persona bots that, and then those analytics are attached to those bots, and they understand, okay, what are these transactions, and how those process execution happened by an HR bot, and what transaction they have executed. So there's a complete history and audit of those transactions that you can basically audit on. Finally, as Mo said, there's a whole focus on test automation framework in UiPath. We have started validating UiPath automation test framework for a lot of OutSystem applications. We will be also working with UiPath to enhancing that framework to be really focusing on some of the key UiPath component, OutSystems components, where if an application is built on OutSystems, you can easily automate test scripts for that particular applications and then, perform the testing on those. So that basically leads into a digital factory. So, if you are in an enterprise which is using OutSystems as their digital transformation strategy, and they are building like 25, 30, 100 apps, and imagine, with the, upgrade either on the product side or an upgrade within your applications, and you have to perform regressions for 100 applications, you would definitely will require an automation framework to do that. You are not going to do all that validation and testing manually. And that's where we are really emphasizing on UiPath test automation framework to address that specific need for our enterprises. And finally, in the real world scenario, there's one more example where we build a revenue cycle optimization solution for healthcare, and a lot of referral management and prior authorization activities are done by the UiPath bots in the backend. That basically, again, gives us a lot of efficiency into the overall process execution and gets us to the revenue faster. And finally, there is one solution, another example that we've done, which is ARIA field support agent. As that ARIA field support agent will require a lot of information, so from FAQs, from manuals and videos, all those activities to bring forward, to a field support agent is done by the bots in the back. So we are leveraging UiPath heavily to drive those kind of transactions as well. Okay, next slide, please, Mo. So this is one of the other solutions that we have built, which is built on OutSystems on the front end, and then the execution, the process execution happens back, in the back end, leveraging UiPath. So I have my colleague Chetal Purkar here who can give you the live demo of this particular solution. So I will ask him to share his screen, and then we can, go from there and give you a live demo of the solution as well.
Sure.
Over to you, Chetal.
Thank you. Thanks, Preet. So before jumping into the demo, Mo, can you please share your screen? I would want, to give a quick walkthrough of what that solution is all about.
Sure.
Thank you, Mo.
Give me 1 sec, it's coming right back on. Can everyone see it again?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So
we're seeing your presentation mode though, Mo. Presenter mode and not full screen.
Yeah, we should see only the screen. It's true. We see two tabs.
Here, give me 1 second.
There's a display settings on the top. If you can select that, and then.
Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, you know what? I shared the wrong screen. I'm so sorry. 1 sec. Is it the wide screen?
Yep.
My mistake. Give me 1 sec.
No problems.
And how about now?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Thanks, Walt.
perfect.
You need a robot for your presentation.
They don't make mistakes. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So this is the employee political contribution tracker that we have developed using both OutSystems and UiPath. Here, what we are doing is we are making sure that the employees' contribution toward political entities are tracked properly and fetched and then given back to the employer database, so it can be tracked easily and we can process it accordingly. If there are some violation that happens, we need to inform employees accordingly as well. So all these processes are being taken care of within this solution. So as we can see, there are two layers, and those are talking with each other with the connector that Mo just explained some time back. So what we are doing is we are making sure we are using the bots, because majority of such websites which keeps a track of the contribution from various employees, they need to be accessed over the website, and all this data is then can be fetched. So that is where the beauty of UiPath bots are there, and then we can fetch all that data, come back to OutSystems application, store that. If there are some notifications that are to be implemented, we can do that. We can notify the employees. So I'll quickly walk you through the existing application, and then we'll walk you through the bot also, which runs behind the scene. Let me share my screen. Thank you. All right. Perfect. So this is the employee political contribution tracker application that we have built using OutSystems. So the UI that you are seeing, it's built completely on OutSystems. And beauty, as we know, OutSystems has a lot of built-in components, UI components, which we can leverage. And we also have leveraged UiPath connector, which is another Forge component, which enables us to talk with the bots, get the data from the bots, pass the parameters, as Mo was mentioning that, we can pass those parameters so bot can act accordingly. So all these things are, embedded in this very solution that we are seeing. So this is the quick dashboard, which gives the overview of a complete set of employees, which employer might have, and then the overall contribution of each of the employees. So, what is the monthly contribution or the yearly, and the respective graphs. So, employer can take a look at various employees that organization has and what are the contributions. So while declaring those details, is there any, discrepancies which can highlight it, in this very application. So what we are seeing here is this whole data thing is residing at OutSystems layer, but fetching all that important information from various websites, that is taken care by the bot, UiPath bot. So the way it happens by the unattended robot. But for the sake of the demo, I would like to show you how this bot runs and how it fetches. So please allow me to show my screen on the UiPath Studio, which has the bot implemented, and I'll run the bot, and then I'll show you what exactly it is doing behind the scene. All right. So the moment there is a trigger from this very EPCT, Employee Political Contribution Tracker application built on OutSystems, it triggers the bot. So as we can see, the bot is now entering to a particular government website and trying to search for the list of the employees that organization has, and capturing all these details regarding the contribution that each individual of that organization has done towards the political parties, right? So we are able to see all these amounts, the corresponding information on the donor, the receipt date, the deposit date, and things like that. So what happens is all these data is gathered by the UiPath bot. Okay, so it is processing that. And I also have added few message boxes. As we can see, this is the data, and this is just for the demonstration purpose, because in the real world, this is not going to be shown at all, because this is the way UiPath bot is structuring the data and sending it to the OutSystems application that we just saw. Okay, so let me quickly, click on OK. Some basic steps that I just wanted to show, whether it has been sent properly or not. But as we all understand, it won't be there in the real world application, right? Bot would take care, and it would be, it would be all done. So this is the way, we can actually have the marriage between both OutSystems as well as a UiPath bot.
And one of the key thing is that you might be thinking that's pretty straightforward. Look at some of the companies which has, millions of employees, right? And you need to validate this information for that large organization to identify if there is violations by any of the employees, right, in this particular space. So the number of transactions and volume, you don't expect somebody to basically logging into these websites, finding that information and collecting that information on day-to-day basis. So this is happening automatically leveraging UiPath bots, and that information comes in. Only thing that we do is report it, and if there is any violation, report the violation, and then have an activity process on that violation that then, there are certain departments within the enterprise that takes care of that, and all that process is built in OutSystems to address it.
That's right.
Yep. Thank you, Chetal, for the demo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mo.
And pretty quickly, so we had a lot of questions come in. There's a couple of really good ones. A couple of the recent questions as well are pretty detailed. Do we want to pause for just a minute or two and try to address some of those or answer some of those?
Absolutely, Mo.
And then Christina, do you happen to have a list of everything from the last few minutes, or should we start from the top and go backwards?
I have a list. So
Let's go for it if you don't mind.
I'm going to integrate also the last question now. So we can go, part of them were answered, but we can still go through all of them. So
Sure.
just give me a minute, wait a bit. Okay. I will share my screen now so you can see the questions. Okay. So these are like, okay, we first had, okay, from David, and this was answered in chat. Is it possible to integrate from third-party system to OutSystems?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Certainly OutSystems can expose service APIs as well as consume APIs. So if you're looking for something bi-directional, very possible. It's meant to build pixel perfect applications and integrate with, dare I say, anything.
Okay.
And
So-
and to add to what Walt just said, the application that we just saw some time back, all the data that the bot has gathered, right? It is sending it to OutSystems application over the API. So it's just one of the use case, but there are other third party also that we can integrate with OutSystems by exposing the API or consuming the APIs.
And David, I hope you are okay with that answer. You can let us know in chat or unmute if you want to confirm, please. Okay, we can go to the next from Cezanne. What are the competencies covered in the decision support algorithms?
I'm sure this question is around the BRMS. Is that correct?
Cezanne, can you please unmute yourself if you have the opportunity?
Yes, of course, no problem. Yeah, I was just referring to in the introduction slide where we saw the decision support algorithms as one of the key items that RPA that UiPath was bringing, and I was just wondering what exactly that.
Mo, you want to take that question?
Yeah, I think I heard most of the question. It cut off a little bit at the end, but I think the high level answer is, like Preet was bringing up early, there's almost a triage of, I think the easiest piece is anything rule based. So if you've got, any type of decision support, you've got standard conditions and rules, that's really what the RPA part does. And then I think when we get into algorithms and AI, I'm not sure the specific competencies in what was shown on the slide, but at a very high level, I think things that come to mind are sentiment analysis, text classification, named entity recognition, probably many others like for images, object detection, things like that. But I think it's really for us at a very high level, it's that idea of starting with rule-based where, certain conditions are met, do this with the robot. Then expanding that out to say, if you identify something via multiple AI methods together, so a couple of those competencies, let's say you find negative sentiment and it's classified as a, within a specific category, and then you prioritize based on the sentiment. That's the type of thing that I think can start driving your decision making if that isn't too general. That's sort of just a couple of thoughts.
Yeah, and adding to that, Mo says, and if you focus on automation first strategy, and you bring that strategy forward, what you do is while building these applications, by default, you will focus on designing your application in a way where you want to improve the productivity of the users. And if you need to improve the productivity of these users who are going to use your applications, you want to make sure that majority of the process execution that requires data-driven decisioning or rule-based decisioning and does not require a manual intervention, you would like to automate it as a backend processing, and then bring only the information forward for the users where they need a human intervention to basically take a decision after reviewing that information or data. So that's the key aspect. Keep the automation first strategy in your design thinking, and then build the applications, and you will bring a lot of productivity in your application.
I think we can move to the next, since we have like a bit more to go through. Perhaps we can split them to keep some for the end as well. From Madura, this one, do we have any tutorial details, documentation for connector builder in integration studies, like what should the base URL and other stuff need to add a new connector? I think this was also like in the chat, it was answered. But you can complete on that if you want more. Yes, we will add it. Yeah.
Well, we'll share a couple of links at the end. We've got like a helpful link section, but we're also planning to have something more specific to OutSystems within Connector Builder, and we'll hope to have a quick start for that over the next couple of months. And then I did want to say, as we're going through the questions, Justin, I see your question, and it's a big one. I think we're going to cover that later in the presentation, but we'll definitely come back to that one.
Okay. Yeah, we have. Okay, from Everett, this one, what are the use cases or benefits to use UiPath compared to OutSystem itself? This example, employee political contribution tracker, can also be used from OutSystems itself. Which benefits UiPath brings to the table?
Yeah, so let me answer that question. So majority of the websites where you want to get the data from does not have any APIs. They don't deliver any APIs. So even if you build your application in OutSystems and you want to extract that information from those third-party systems and API, sites, without any API, you will not be able to get that information. That's point number one. Point number two is that the level and volume of transactions that are required on day-to-day basis, you don't want to put a heavy lifting from a systems of engagement. You would like a backend processing system to basically do all of that for you and drive and deliver the data back to the system in the database. And then, OutSystem will be leveraged to basically present that information and data and execute activities or actions on those insights. That's where you use OutSystems for. I hope, I answered your question, why we used UiPath for that particular application.
Okay. Let's go to the next one from BRG. Robotics is all about KPIs. Can you please share a KPI example for this use case where your OutSystems and UiPath are integrated?
Yeah. So if you look at my HR onboarding, example as well, right? There was a KPI. The KPI was the key aspect of KPI was for the HR team to basically onboard people as fast as possible, right? And they wanted to reduce their timeline overall from 3 weeks to in days. And if they would have continued, and if they would have to achieve those KPIs through the regular process, then the only possibility was that they increase their HR team to multi-fold. They need to bring a lot of people as part of HR team to process all those activities that are required to onboard a person, and without using a digital workforce or bots behind the scene to execute those transactions. The only way is to put more manpower on it. But how much manpower? You cannot just keep adding people to solve a problem, right? So at some point, you need to step back and see, do you even need those people to perform those activities? Can a digital workforce can do that in the back end, and you use your own team, which is the HR team, to perform very vital activities, and then rest of them can be taken care by bots. And those are the KPIs that we go after. As I said, that our always strategy is to keep automation first. It is always aligned with some key KPI goals. What is the use case? What is the business value for that use case? Why somebody wants to automate something, or why somebody wants to build a particular system of engagement, what it will offer. Is it going to offer some productivity? What are those numbers? Is it going to, help get to the revenue faster? And what is the revenue benefits that they're going to get? So everything is tied to those KPIs. And then once you design your systems, then you need to take a decision on both hands. What will reside in your system of engagement, and what will go into a backend processing, and what technology you'll use for backend processing. In this particular case, we are using OutSystems for application development and engaging with the users, and then we are using UiPath to do the backend processing and addressing the KPIs accordingly.
Okay. How do we differentiate UiPath apps with OutSystems from a person who is new to OutSystems?
Yeah, and actually, Christina, I think the next two questions are related. I'll give a little bit of an answer from my perspective, but I think if you guys, with your hands-on experience with both, you'll probably have a great answer as well. But I think at a high level, this is just my opinion. I generally look at OutSystems as very user-centric, and apps is very automation-centric, where apps can be an extension of what I'm building my automations around. It's a quick way to surface automations, to surface information, things like that. But then OutSystems, especially for external users, if I need a mobile version of the app and things like that, I think it's still a more persistent type of application. I think that's where, from a user perspective, everything within OutSystems is focused around the user and the user experience. And then UiPath can then augment that to pull in data and perform backend operations and incorporate IDP and things like that. If I'm building out apps, I'm generally going to be building them out around automations, with automations as the focus, as opposed to automations being a method available to the app being the focus. That's just, most of that's my opinion, but Preet, what you guys think based on your experience?
No, absolutely, Bo. I'll give a very simple example to that. You build some very, very complex system of engagements using full stack, right? When I talk about system of engagement, I'm talking about something like order orchestration system, or talking about HR onboarding solution, or I'm talking about revenue cycle optimization, or if I talk about systems which are very focused around legal entity, loan origination, know your customer. These are very complex applications with huge amount of user base. Okay, we are talking about thousands of users which are internal enterprise users, and we are talking about millions of users which are external users, which are your end customers for that particular app. You build those app in full stack, right? Like either using React Native and full stack technologies. OutSystem is a low-code app dev platform. Whatever you can build in full stack, you can build it in OutSystems. That's a very simple way of saying it, right? Now, once you're building these complex applications with a huge user base, you basically tend to look for, okay, what is the productivity or efficiency you want to bring it into your applications? And that's where you start looking into keeping the automation thinking in place and try to do the backend automation, leveraging technologies like UiPath. Okay, so that's where the OutSystem capability comes into picture, and now you can build native iOS applications, you can build native Android applications, you can do also progressive web apps using OutSystems, right? So OutSystem as a technology is built to develop these kind of applications, and then UiPath, core focus of UiPath is to enhance the automation focus within an enterprise, and you do majority of your automation leveraging UiPath and get the benefit of that automation, deliver the benefits to your applications that you build in OutSystems.
Okay, so I think those questions were answered. If you want to come back on that more at the end within the Q&A, but probably you'll get more questions till then. We still have like half an hour. Would you like to continue with the presentation, or shall we go to the second question of the mentee?
I think let's jump in because I know Walt has some really great stuff to show us in OutSystems, and I want to make sure we cover that. So let me share my screen again. And Walt, I think we're jumping right into your slides whenever you're ready. And actually, do we want to take a quick minute to do the quiz, Christina?
This is what I asked. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Wait a
Okay.
bit. So,
All right, guys, we're going to take a brief break for the quiz, and then we're going to jump right into the OutSystems side. There's some really cool stuff coming up. So let me stop sharing.
okay. So this is where we left off the leaderboard. This is, we'll move now to the second question of the Menti. And from here onwards, after this, my colleague Diana will take over as I have to jump to another call. So we'll go into question 2. Guys, if you haven't left the quiz room, you must still be in it. If not, I will give you again the code to enter the quiz room so you can copy paste. So www.menti.com, this is the code. Try for mobile, it's more easy. And we're going to wait just a few seconds for you to be able to join the quiz room in case you left it. So you can let me know in chat if you're in the quiz room and everything is okay and we can start. So if I get 2, 3 yeses, I will start. Okay, 1, 2. You don't have the link, www.menti.com, and the code is there. So I just shared again. You go to this link, www.menti.com, and you enter this code and you're in the quiz room. David, and let us know when you managed.
I think let's do it, Chris. I think,
Well,
41 people. Yeah, I think that was David.
Okay, so remember, answer fast to get more points. This is a rule with Menti. OutSystems apps that include UiPath connector actions can be started in a variety of ways, including controls and conditions, only be started via a server console, only be triggered by static buttons. Only one option is correct, of course.
Oh, nice job,
Okay.
guys.
Yes, okay, let's see the leaderboard to see whether anything changed or Atul is still leading. Yeah, nothing changed. Same.
No,
Oh.
yeah.
Argin, first same people as first 3, but Argin moved into the leader position. So as you see, it's dynamic. Anything can change. So wait for the next question, which Diana will present. Thank you.
All right, great. Let me pull the slides back up, and Walt, I think we're handing over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mo. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Excellent. 1954, raise your hand if you were around back then. I'm going to guess no one was. 68 years ago, sci-fi filmmakers imagined robots that could travel to space. Next slide, please. That's when Tobor the Great was born. Look it up on Wikipedia. Here you have a robotic automation on the right, and you see the young man with the user interface. And we're going to focus our attention on that today. Next slide, please. Where we find ourselves in 2022, and I really appreciate our friends at Persistent sharing business usages. But at the end of the day, technologists have to imagine software robots putting information at their fingertips. The business folks, they need this information. Our end users, our customers, etc., expect excellent user experiences. And as technologists, we have to build that stuff. And that's where OutSystems and UiPath come into the picture. Next slide, please. One more, if you don't mind. So here we have a little animation on the left side. We see our robot handling those automations. And it's already been mentioned, some of the business strengths with the partnership. What I've done here is, especially when you start thinking about heritage systems, which most of our prospects have very large investments. How do we crack into those less than integration friendly systems? Or, as was already mentioned earlier, interact with websites that maybe don't provide APIs. That's where the robot comes in very handy. I also have noticed that I've never gotten a call that a robot is calling in sick. And so we can unleash this automation and allow it to work 24/7. Did a robot ever get COVID? I do not believe so. And so with that automation, I can hook it up to my excellent user experiences. You see on the right side, some of the examples of what can be done with OutSystems. And so here you see modern interfaces integrated with unfriendly systems. We all have them, and you can layer on top of that attractive user interfaces. So let's go to the next slide, please. So here we're going to do a walkthrough of UiPath and OutSystems configuration. I believe that Mo will take the helm at this point. Thank you.
So my part will be really quick. I just wanted to provide a little bit of background on some of the prerequisites on the UiPath side. But if you go into Orchestrator, the very first important piece we need is we set up a we set up an external application set of credentials. So if I go to Orchestrator, if I go to my top level org, within external applications, I've only got OutSystems here. I'll set up, I'll go ahead and just edit the existing one so you can see it. But all I need to do is set up a confidential application, which is going to generate OAuth credentials to be used as part of, that integration from OutSystems. So I'll get an app ID, so I'll get my client ID, I'll get my app secret. I won't generate a new one for now. And then I just provide my orchestrator scopes. So for application scopes, in this case, we're not using user scopes, we're using application for a third party, application, in this case, OutSystems. I think I picked them all, but you really just need to pick the orchestrator scopes that you need. So for example, for robots or machines or processes or queues, whatever you're using, you'll provide access, but really it's as simple as taking that app ID, taking that app secret. And then there's a couple of different ways to get things like the org ID. So I know one of the required fields is the organization ID. Just looking at the URL, I can see that my org ID is within the URL, but Walt is actually going to show via Postman or other API methods how you can get that and whatever you need. And we're going to take that app ID, we're going to take that app secret, and we're ready to go with OutSystems. So Walt, I'll switch back to you and let's take a look at the OutSystems side. And then just real quick, I do see the question about the trial, and UiPath and OutSystems both have really great trial options, a community edition and sandboxes. I've been using them for months. It's great on both sides. So if you go to uipath.com and try for free, you'll be able to download our trial with Orchestrator and everything you just saw there.
Very good. So let's see the next slide, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
Is that demo time?
I think it is demo time, but let me just see real quick.
Yeah, well, let me just jump into it then.
Yeah.
Very good. I'll share my screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. So this is the home screen that I'll show you how we constructed that in just a moment here. But this is where we will eventually land, and we'll be able to see the integrations between OutSystems and UiPath. And so what you can see here is on our Forge, which is our repository, we have one placeholder for the UiPath Orchestrator Cloud Connector. And within that, there's a demo sample as well that's available to you. And so you can just go in here and download this into your Service Studio, which is the integrated development environment. And you can see some details here as well as some documentation Several links are available within this documentation. Some of what you just saw Mo go through as far as setting it up and getting some of the attributes that you need to make the integration work correctly are all available on what we call Forge. And so you can see that here on the screen, and just go in and you can log in to install it directly into your Service Studio. And so let me show you that right now. I'm going to bring up my Service Studio. And you can see here that I've, in essence, I've got two components. Let me back up here. I've got a UiPath Orchestrator connector and a UiPath Orchestrator connector demo. And so both of those are available in my environment as you see it here. And let me start with the connector first. And so what's interesting, let me drag this off the screen. What's interesting to developers is several things here. You'll see there's a logic layer and a data layer. If you're not familiar with OutSystems and this is your first demonstration, let me just approach it from a very high level, that within the connector, within the logic collection, there's server actions. And within these, let's just pick robots, for example. What's happened is we've exposed some low code capabilities and abstractions that sit on top of the APIs that are available within the UiPath Orchestrator. And so what you do is you build out your application actions. And in this particular case, this is the connector itself. So I wouldn't really modify anything here other than to say that within the data, and you're going to see here, there's structures that have been brought in that are useful for the data exchanges, as well as some site properties. I'll show you that in just a moment when I get into the demonstration layer here. But for example, Mo was showing client IDs and secrets and so forth that need to be configured for your API calls. And that would be done within the site properties. And from the demo side, I can see my home page, for example. And I believe I showed you earlier when we first came in, there was a screen that showed that user interface. And so what I'd like to do now is walk through the demo layer a little bit. Again, from a logic perspective, you can see I've brought in my API layer that's being exposed by the UiPath connector. And then I'm building out, for example, a callback that I'll demonstrate in just a moment here. But in essence, I've got a user interface with my home page showing on the left here. I've got some logic that I'm utilizing, as well as some structures that are coming in from the connector implementations, as well as some site properties that I mentioned. And so here's where I need to put in a UiPath bearer token. As a matter of fact, just moments ago, I realized that we've been on this call longer than an hour, so my bearer token expired. So I very swiftly went into my Service Center. I'll bring that up on the screen here, and you'll see that there's a place to enter my site properties. Now, very quickly, if anyone can tell me what this key is as I take it back off the screen, I'll give you $50. But that bearer token now is embedded within the application so that I can successfully interact and perform my demo. And so let me click on this open browser here, and what you're going to see is I'm going to come back to my user interface. Now, again, this was built within OutSystems as a home screen, and under the covers, which has been covered extensively in today's discussions, is calls out to REST APIs that are triggering some automations that were built by Mo on the call today for these demonstration purposes. And so what you're seeing here is my home screen and the some of the APIs that have been exposed. Again, this is sort of like an admin console, but You see here queues. Queues could be used to feed some of your automations. I think Mo even mentioned there's JavaScript capabilities that you could embed. But what we're trying to do is keep our abstractions and our interfaces as isolated as possible to avoid the brittleness that normally comes along with applications of this magnitude. And so for the sake of exercising those APIs today, we've built out this sample admin console. And so what I've done here is I've clicked refresh, and you can see what's happened is the OutSystems application, which is just a browser app running HTML, JavaScript, and style sheets. And that app has gone out, it's queried the API that has been provided by UiPath and brought in the list of all the processes that are available to me. And so what I'd like to do now is click on, let me refresh this page and show again, this is a request reply type pattern. So here you can see some jobs that were executed, not real interesting per se, but again, showcasing the request or request reply pattern being invoked. And so now what I'd like to do is, this is where I can show a asynchronous callback from UiPath. So under the covers or behind the scenes up in the cloud, my application is running, rendering on my local laptop, on my local workstation, also being shared by Zoom across the world as you're viewing it here today. And the My Jobs piece is where I'm able to exercise an asynchronous callback. And so what we've done is, if I go back to processes here, you can see there's many jobs that I could run. And so I'm going to choose this one just for demonstration purposes, very lightweight. And what it does is it provides a couple of strategies, and in collaboration with Mo, we built out a modern jobs count automation. And so I'm just going to click on activate here. And if all works well and my key is active, my bearer token, all is well. And you can see there that I've successfully invoked my my automation on the UiPath side. And you can see here now that I've got a new job that's been added, and it's pending. Again, at the speed of robots, it can be a little uninteresting doing demonstrations because.
So real quick,
Whoops, go ahead.
we can't show much, but it is running right here on my unattended robot. I'm looking at it right now. So if you see any movement to my right, that's the bot running.
Very good. And so what I've done is I've triggered a job that's sitting inside UiPath right now, waiting for, it's collected some results, and it's waiting to be triggered so that it can send back asynchronously to my OutSystems application. And so what I'm going to do now is, in order to get that pending job to be released, so to speak, I'm going to come into Postman. Hopefully everyone's familiar with Postman. And one of the things I found is UiPath actually provides a Postman configuration. So all of this stuff you see here under UiPath connector was provided directly by this configuration that I downloaded. And so as long as I've got my bearer token and my client secrets and so forth configured correctly, you can see here I have successfully I got a 200 status back, and I've successfully queried folders. There's only one out there, we call it shared, and I've confirmed that my my integration between Postman and UiPath is working correctly. And so one thing I built out was this robot callback. And so what I want to show you here using Postman, you see Tobor is still involved with our demonstration here. And I want to trigger this API call through Postman against the UiPath exposed API, and you're going to see here that the job key was not found. So I'm getting back a 404, it's not found. My API is obviously working, but it didn't like the data that I passed it. And so now, in an effort to showcase the asynchronous nature and the callback, you see my pending job here, 49 and other numbers. I will copy that and put it into my Postman, again, just to demonstrate that this is live software that is behaving in the way that you would expect it to, even under production applications. And so here I gave it a key that it could find within the database, and it's just given me a little bit of echo back on those parameters that I passed it. And so now I'll go back to my UiPath admin screen, and I'll just refresh my jobs, and now you can see that, you know, all of my jobs have been completed. And so what does this show? It shows that the integration between OutSystems and UiPath is very seamless using REST APIs. So this allows you to integrate your heritage systems and provide those abstractions through UiPath, and then go so far as to put them within a pixel perfect user experience. Now, this is a browser app in this case, but it could very easily be a mobile app. And so, you know, just thinking about the art of the possible here, very easy to provide those integrations into your automations. And I would venture that most of the business problems and technical problems that we encounter in our ecosystems, as well as the general landscape, would be solvable even with very attractive user experiences utilizing the UiPath and OutSystems combination. And so I'll stop there, Mo, and if you don't mind going back to the slides, I think I'm done with my demo, unless there's any relevant questions to it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So, you know, we were just trying to showcase how the two technologies can interact with each other.
Yeah, no, Walt, that was fantastic, and really appreciate you walking through it. I think there's one question not on this demo, but did you plan to create a connector for Neo OutSystems platform? I'm not familiar with Neo, so if you have any idea on that.
Yes, Neo is our new containerized technology, which we expect to release. This is a forward-looking statement now I'm making, of course, but we'll be releasing that sometime early 2023. It will allow you to use native cloud capabilities as well as scale, and you know, allow you to architect around scale as well as components that make relevant sense in those technical contexts. And so I would expect that this particular connector will be very easily ported to Neo, and we will get to that as soon as we finish our rollout of that particular technology and solution. Does that answer the question? All right, so I have one more slide, I believe, Mo, if you don't mind sharing that, and then I'll go back to being a static button. Okay, we showed the live demonstration, and this will be my final slide. So 68 years ago, filmmakers, visionaries saw a need for intelligent automation. This robot was going to be sent to outer space. Black and white TV probably predates many of us. And this intelligent automation was being operated by a user interface. And as you can see in the upper left of this slide, OutSystems and UiPath. What a fantastic combination. Modern intelligent automation from UiPath coupled with world-class user experiences from OutSystems. That's how robots are done in 2022. That's all I have, Mo. You might be on mute.
Sorry about that. No, Walt, I just wanted to say that was fantastic. And the only thing I'll add is, from a UiPath perspective, one of our core tenets is that idea of an automation layer. And I think this is just a fantastic opportunity, to establish that UI and then to sort of shield users from all the stuff that's going on, like in a factory, with your automation where the robots can do, a lot of different things. You can use your OutSystems integrations and methods alongside them. And the user never has to see any of it. In an attended case, you might have what we're looking at here, where maybe I use robot.js and I have a quick browser pop up, as part of my attended automation. But for unattended, all I see is the remote in my hand and that OutSystems app on my screen, mobile or desktop. And I think that's just a really powerful, powerful 1-2 punch. And then I think we had our quiz here. So Diana, if you want to do questions 3 and 4, but before that, were there any additional questions if anybody wanted to jump in? And I did want to say I really appreciate all of the engagement and all the great questions so far. There were a lot. So if anybody has anything else, please fire away in the chat. And then if not, Diana, why don't you go ahead and throw up the last 2 quiz questions?
Sure. Okay, is everybody, I just put the Menti in chat. UiPath automations can be selected in the OutSystems UiPath connector by entering the release key after finding it manually, selecting processes by name. This is a future enhancement. Oh, that was a tough question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how we did.
Yeah, and I did want to say the ability to choose by name is a nice little enhancement, because having to find that release key and then enter the GUID is I think a lot less elegant than that. So yeah, you literally just pick a drop down, pick your process, then you'll see all the corresponding information in that type of view that Walt just showed.
Okay, and we have one last question. UiPath automations can be triggered by OutSystems apps via desktop and mobile. Desktop only. OutSystems is only on mobile apps. Okay, great. Most people got that right. So let's see who the winner is.
Yeah, let's see who won. I think Argon's gonna run away with it, but let's see.
All right, Oregon,
Yep.
Congratulations. So if you would put your email address in the chat box, I will grab that and send you a prize.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, I wanted to thank everybody again, but especially wanted to thank all of my co-presenters for jumping in and providing such great information on both the business and technical side. So really excited to see what everyone does with that combined capability of UiPath and OutSystems. I mean, I think we only scratched the surface of the capabilities.
Yeah, and Mo, I just have a few more slides to share, if that's okay.
Sure. Yep.
So I would just like to let everybody know that we do have quite a few items that you can participate in the community. I'm not going to go through all of these, but if you go to community.uipath.com, you'll see where you can get involved in our community. So would appreciate that. And the other thing I'd like you to know is that this is just the first of a series of events. So the next one is on October 27th, Innovate with Data. You have with UiPath and Snowflake. We have several additional ones. So again, please join us for all these upcoming events. We're excited to have our partners join us. And then I would also like to call out your attention to the fact that we just this week launched our MVP program. So if you're interested in joining, there'll be a lot of information out on our forum, but also you can just scan this barcode and just please apply if you're interested in becoming an MVP, or reach out to us if you are interested. Thank you. And I will put my email in chat in case you would like to contact me to find out more about that. So I would love to thank everybody for coming today. And our speakers in particular, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. It was a fantastic session.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Take care.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.